just made the list!
Doctor, I'll see you now.
I'm better than you, and you know it!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around the Ring, episode 276. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley, joined as always by Steve Long. Steve, how's it going?
It's going good. How you doing?
Not too bad. A little tired, ready for school to start tomorrow. And
Oh, yeah. How's that going?
yeah, not too bad. You know, we had snow here last week, so I only had to go in person one day last week, so kind of eased back into it, but back to full grind.
Yeah. Kind of a slow week of wrestling this week.
Yeah, it feels like all the newsworthy moments kind of came out of some of the shows that happened, and not so much on the just the news side of things. So I feel like all the big stuff we'll probably hit talking about on Dynamite and some other shows that we watched this week. But
So what's going on with Punk Lotto lately?
Let's see. Last week we talked to the guys on the Deathscography podcast, and we talked about Touche Amore's 2009 album. And then coming up this week, we have Ian Miller, who currently plays in the band Kowloon Walled City, and he's also played in tons of other bands. One very notable band, Skankin' Pickle. Let's see. And then we're talking about X's 1981 album Wild Gift. So
Very cool.
How about Rogue One? What's going
on? I mean, right now we've got the Book of Boba Fett going on. So we're gonna be talking about that until it's over with. After that, I'm not really sure what is on the agenda. I know the Moon Knight TV show is coming up in March.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize this soon.
Yeah, it's coming up March 30th. And then the Batman, the movie, comes out March. So
wow.
I'm thinking we might do some Batman episodes just to kind of lead into that, but we really haven't talked that far into the future yet.
Yeah.
But Dave, who was with us last week, has had a couple of podcasts episodes. He did one on the Foo Fighters back on when was that?
That was last
week.
That
was last week. Yeah, that was last week is when that dropped. Last month. And then today he dropped one about Dag Nasty.
Yeah. Both great episodes. I listened to both of those today. I got caught up.
I haven't listened to the Dag Nasty one yet because I between work, I was just watching wrestling all day, just kind of in spurts, kind of just in segments. But I'll try to check out the Dag Nasty one tomorrow. But that is one band, 5 songs. So that's a really good podcast. And if you are a fan of podcasts, you should check out the Red 5 Network, which we are part of. A lot of really good popular-based podcasts on there. And you can check all of those out at red5network.com. Or you can check them out on Twitter at Red 5 Network, and the 5 is the number and not spelled out. Good stuff out there.
You can follow us on twitter.com/AroundTheRingOK. See?
It's just okay.
Okay.
Around the Ring okay. Which I've thought about changing because neither one of us, come, a few months from now, neither one of us are actually living in Oklahoma. Hadn't really thought too deep into that, but if you listeners out there have any suggestions, And then you can find me on Twitter at Otter272. And where can they find you?
I am at JuiceFaceKilla. I am also at PuncLottoPod. That's pretty much on every social media. So for both of those. Today's show, we were talking beforehand. It kind of a quiet week. There were big moments for sure, but we have a couple news pieces to go over. We will be talking about AEW Dynamite and Rampage. You watched GCW's The Wrld.
I did, yeah.
And I
So
watched
I'll talk a little bit about that.
I watched MLW Azteca's first episode. And
oh, wow.
For our top 5 this week, we are doing top 5 future stars. So basically, wrestlers who haven't quite been at the top of the company wherever they have been yet. But
yeah. And I think we're trying to keep it to wrestlers that have been wrestling for less than 10 years. I'm pretty sure that I hit that with mine. I had one on there that I was like, oh, this guy's been wrestling much longer than I thought he was. But then as I was finalizing the list, I thought of another one and I'm like, oh, I know he has not been wrestling for 10 years. So
yeah,
he definitely, I didn't have to use the other guy. But yeah, and then after we talk about our news, we had over on our Twitter, I asked our followers, fans, listeners, whatever you want to call them, if they had any questions that they wanted to ask us. And we did get a response. It was kind of short notice, so I wasn't expecting, a huge response. But yeah, we did get one question, so we will be answering that question.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and get started with the news?
Yeah. So, light week on news, like I said. One of the biggest headlines I saw today while doing a little research to see, what happened this week, is that unfortunately, New Japan Pro Wrestling had to cancel the remainder of their January events due to COVID-19 protocols, as they put it. And their live touring will resume on February 6th, but it just means they had to cancel a couple of these Golden Series shows that they've been doing. It comes down to some members of the roster were kind of experiencing, temperatures and, being in close contact with each other. So it was just like, let's just play it safe and everybody go home and rest up. And
did it say whether or not that included the folks from the LA dojo?
It does not. This would just be affecting the shows in Japan, Fukushima, Cork Hall, Ibaraki. Gotcha. Yeah. So they'll come back. I mean, really these shows, if you looked at the cards on them, they're all tag matches anyway. So it's not like we're going to lose any matches, really important matches. Yeah. So hopefully everybody's safe and healthy and we'll, they'll be able to resume in February.
Yeah. So the next piece of news that came out is that Peter Avalon has let his contract with AEW expire.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was he let it expire or AEW let it expire, but the contract is expired.
Yeah.
This is interesting because is he the first original AEW wrestler to not be renewed?
I'm not sure, but he did wrestle prior to AEW.
He did. Yeah. I meant he was day one AEW, wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think Swole was really there.
Sure. No, she was not there.
Yeah, because she came in later after.
Not much later, but yeah, I think he was one of the first.
Yeah, I mean he says he's one of the first. It makes sense. He wrestled a lot in L.A. and that's where the Young Bucks spent a lot of time wrestling. And
Yeah.
I know he had a big part in what is the Young Bucks being the elite. Peter Avalon, he unfortunately had the terrible gimmick of the librarian in the beginning.
Yeah.
One of
I
AEW's early missteps.
Yeah, I think that hurt him. I
Yeah.
think that hurt his staying power because I was not impressed with that gimmick at all, and he just kind of I bowed out of him pretty early.
Yeah, and he that what was it? Was that whole thing between him and Leva Bates was just
Yeah,
atrocious.
it was. That's a good word for it. Very good word for it. Atrocious. It was. Yeah, not
I
worth watching.
imagine I
And
imagine
I
Leva
haven't
Bates will
seen.
I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
I imagine Leva Bates will probably stick around the company because I think she does a lot of administrative work for the company.
Yeah, I think she does a lot of stuff in the backstage.
I think
The
she's
back.
still the timekeeper too, as far as I
Possibly.
could tell. But yeah, he was part of the Wingmen with JD Drake.
Yeah.
I love JD Drake, so I was happy to see him involved in something. But the gimmick as a whole, I wasn't like, okay,
Yeah.
they're just losers. That's their whole gimmick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just jobbers basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I haven't really seen him around much. And I'm talking about Avalon. Other than Dark, uh,
I mean, yeah,
which
I'm sure he
I
lives
haven't
on Dark.
watching near. Yeah, I haven't watched. I've been watching Dark near as much as I would like to. Um, After we get done recording tonight, I probably am going to try to check out today's episode, but or I might wait till tomorrow. I don't know.
I mean, I think this is going to keep happening. Contracts are coming up, and not everyone's going to get renewed. And I
Well,
think, go ahead.
yeah, I think they're all going to be. Uh, I don't want to use the word victims, but call it what it is: victims of such a stacked roster.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, you
That's
want everyone to have a job, but also it's not realistic to keep everyone. So
right. Right.
I guess in order to, I know there's people who are like, well, you don't get mad when AEW lets people go. And it's like letting a contract expire is not the same thing as like
Yeah.
releasing a ton of people.
Right. I mean, and the good thing is, the independent wrestling scene is doing very for itself these
Yeah.
days. I mean, with the exception of what happened with Ring of Honor, um, there's a lot of places people can go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Impact is still looking for people.
Yeah.
But just the independent scene in general, there's a lot of places you can go and get paid to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, since excluding pandemic times, but I feel like the independent scene is actually doing almost a little better
Yeah.
than it was pre-pandemic, because I feel
Yeah.
like maybe ROH, they had their talent, and then a lot of wrestlers were in Japan working still from over here, and
Yeah.
then you also have your I don't know why I'm blanking on NXT was like hoarding wrestlers for a
Yeah.
while there, so like there's a pretty healthy indie market right now. So
There really is. Yeah. There's a lot of those lower tier
mm-hmm.
companies that are getting really huge and getting really popular. Take GCW for instance.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, 2-3 years ago, how many people would have heard of it?
Right. I mean, it was pretty small a couple years ago, and yeah, they've arguably become the third most popular promotion. in the United States. So.
And then you've got MLW,
Mm-hmm.
another one that's kind of not really heard of until like the last couple of years.
Yeah, they don't have a giant roster, but they utilize everyone regularly. So it's if you work there, you get a lot of work.
Yeah. And so, I mean, going back to GCW, I'd heard of it, obviously, but actually had never watched any of their events until this one that just came out, the Wrld. Which, why are they spelling it weird? I don't get that, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's just the state of independent wrestling is very, very good right now. And if Ring of Honor comes back healthy, for lack of a better term, then it'll be that much better. I do want to say, however, also I just realized that my numbering is off, so this is actually not episode 276. This is episode 277. Last week was 276. I'm really not sure how my numbering was off.
Oh well, it's more of a legacy numbering anyway. So
yeah, pretty much. Because I looked over at. You know what? I've got it numbered wrong on our Twitter. Boy, I feel stupid. Wow.
You got a top rate podcast over here.
Yeah, really. We're professionals here. I think what happened is I copied and pasted, and I changed everything in the post except for the episode number. Awesome.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Twitter doesn't have an edit button, so sorry about that. So yeah, folks, this is 277.
Yeah,
not 278.
It's no big deal. The last little news piece that I had was just that they announced a couple people for Terminus 2. So if you remember, I watched Terminus 1. I believe it was last week, actually.
Yeah,
we talked about it. And at the end of that show, it set up a match between Jonathan Gresham and Santana of the Proud and Powerful. And so that match has been set for Terminus 2, which is February 24th. And it'll be for the Ring of Honor original world title. And then they have announced a couple names so far. We have Shane Swerve Strickland, recently released WWE wrestler. I've seen him live before. He's a really great wrestler. We also have Leo Rush on the show, and who just announced that his contract, he's going to basically becoming a free agent very shortly from AEW. So he had a short-term little contract there. And then someone named Kevin Blackwood is also wrestling on that show. I'm not familiar with him, but I have heard the name. So I'm sure there'll be more people announced as we get closer to the show. But I'm looking forward to Terminus 2. I liked their presentation, and I hope that they continue to grow and improve. And yeah. So, what do you want to start with as far as, or do you want to do our question first?
Yeah, let's do our question. So out on Twitter, we asked, any questions that you'd like us to answer. And we got a response from at bear_e using the Twitter handle of the audiobook of Darth Papa Bear. So what he's asking is a fantasy Royal Rumble. Which AEW, New Japan, and independent wrestlers would you like to see in the Royal Rumble? It also asks, where would you like to see them enter and how well would they do? So I'd like to preface this by making it clear, if it's not already, we don't, neither one of us actually watch that promotion.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about this on Twitter last week, and I think I stopped watching that product like in 2017 or 2018. So who would I like to, I mean, to be honest, who would I like to see in the Royal Rumble? Nobody, because I wouldn't watch it. But for the purposes of the show and to answer the question, I will come up with some names as to who would be fun to see in a Royal Rumble if we watched the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Which, you know, there's two. There's the men and the women's, so you have a little bit more options there to choose from.
That is right.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
See. Well, I mean, really, my first one right off the bat would be Kenta.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to remember what the last thing Kenta really did in WWE. 205 Live, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think that's where they stuck him before he left. Ugh. I mean, it'd be cool to get like a face-off with him and somebody like who did he wrestle in NXT? Was it did he ever I think he had a feud with Finn Balor, I want to say.
I think so.
So that would be a fun little return there.
Yeah. Man, now I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I remember him being hurt.
Yeah.
But I remember he was didn't he have a feud with, no, that's too he did not have a feud with Adam Cole, because I don't think Adam Cole was in yet. Didn't he have some matches with Buddy Murphy?
Maybe. It might have been. Was that a 205 Live thing? I don't remember.
Yeah, might have been.
You know, unfortunately, though, if he were to show up in the Rumble, they would call him Hideo Itami. And
right.
Not Kenta.
Yeah, they would not call him Kenta. But you know, this is our rules, our fantasy booking, so
yeah,
we can do what we want.
Yeah.
So that's my. How many of these do you want to do?
Just a couple. We can name a couple.
Yeah. Okay.
I did think of one fun one. This was purely just a one-off thing. Like this would, I would want him to come out, eliminate one person, eliminate himself, and leave. I want Jon Moxley to show up, give Seth Rollins a paradigm shift, and then throw him out of the ring, and then maybe Roman can knock Moxley out, and then they mentioned Moxley apparently on Raw. Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that. So another thought, like when you mentioned that, I thought you were about to mention somebody else, but I would do this. It would never, ever, ever, ever happen in a million years, ever. But I would like to see Punk come in, eliminate a crap ton of people, and then like just leave the arena. Like not even like get kicked out or anything, or knocked out of the arena. Just like eliminate some people and then just leave.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hilarious to see him do that.
If we were going to on the women's side, I would have Kairi Sane come back in the women's Rumble. She has I think she went back to Japan, got married. I think she's done with the WWE, even though maybe her contract's not completely finished. But it'd be fun to have her come back for a little one-off. And then she gets a hold of Io Shirai, her former rival, and or you can have an Asuka moment, though Asuka supposedly she's not back yet. I could see Asuka showing up in the Rumble though this year.
Yeah. See, women wrestling. I have quite a few that I can think of would be. What about Allison Kay?
Oh yeah, she's someone who I think could do well in the WWE. I think she'd be someone that would be. I don't know. You can't really say with WWE.
Yeah,
you never know.
She's still in the NWA right now. She had a title run, a fairly long one, in NWA. In fact, she only. Let me see if I can find the time period. It's a pretty long run.
Mm-hmm.
She had it from April 2019 until January 2020, and was defeated by Thunder Rosa.
Oh yeah.
So there's another one, Thunder Rosa. I'd like to see her in there. But now that I'm thinking of NWA, I'd actually wouldn't mind seeing Nick Aldis in there.
Well, I thought even to Aaron Stevens, the former what was his name in
Damien Sandow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little one-off. I mean, that would be the type of thing they would do, just like how they're going to bring Mickie James back for like a minute, and she'll be thrown out, I'm sure. Yeah, bring him back. Have him be Sandow again, wearing the robe and all that stuff. Have him a little face-off with The Miz, and then, he gets thrown out.
For sure.
And he doesn't show up next week,
Yeah.
That's the Rumble is, despite my not particularly enjoying the WWE, the Rumble is an institution in wrestling, and it's one of the more fun things that company still does.
I'd consider watching it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
Like if the WWE network was still a thing and you got all the pay-per-views for free, I would probably watch that one.
You can watch it on Peacock and get.
I'm not a Peacock subscriber.
NBC content.
Yeah, not into
that. My biggest fantasy booking is so dumb it will never ever happen. But I want Taguchi from New Japan to come into the WWE, go into the Rumble, and eliminate his former tag team partner, Prince Devitt, by hitting him with his butt, knocking him over the top rope.
Yeah, I got one for you that will never happen, but this is what I want. This is what I want to see happen. I want this person to come in like kind of middle of the lineup and then take it all. And it would be so random to people. And I could almost guarantee that 40% of those in attendance or those watching would have no idea who the guy is, but those hardcore wrestling fans would know him. And I am thinking Shibata.
Ooh. Yeah, that is like the most fantasy booking you could possibly.
It'd be so cool to see Shibata come in, but nobody would know who he is. They'd be like, "Okay, he wouldn't get a pop. He'd get a pop from like 3 people in the stadium."
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd say even less than I'd say more than 40% would probably not know who he is in that arena.
Yeah. So it'd just be like, okay, yeah.
Let's get Jay White in there and come knock some people out. That'd be,
there you go. Let's see if we can get more people that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. for that. I hope that answered your question, Bear. And you folks out there that are listening, if you have a question for us for next week, we will be sure to answer it. We'll try to do this. We'll try to do this every week. It's kind of fun, actually. Wrestling questions, please. Or or not. I don't know. Whatever. All right. So let's talk about some wrestling. What do you want to talk about first?
Should we go chronological through the week?
Sure.
It makes the most sense to go this way.
Okay. So I guess that means Dynamite.
Yeah. So we'll start with Dynamite.
So biggest thing that happened on Dynamite was right at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And that's the return of Mr. Jon Moxley. And he came out and did a promo it was a really good promo.
Yeah.
Man, he looked good. He is looking good.
The second he came out, that was my thought. I was like, wow, he looks good. He slimmed down. His hair's a little different,
Yeah, he doesn't look bloated.
I noticed like his neck muscles were a little smaller. So like it made him look a lot thinner. Yeah, he just looked great. The promo was amazing. It was one of those promos too where it's like he's addressing why he left without specifically saying why he left.
Yes. Except at the very end, he kind of mentioned it in a roundabout way. He said, "The only thing I drink now is blood."
Yeah, I'm thirsty for blood.
Yeah,
such a good promo.
It was such a good, and he got one heck of a pop.
Oh yeah, but you know what was crazy was how quiet everyone got whenever he started talking. It was like it was it's amazing. It reminded me of like a New Japan show, like just how deathly silent it was because people were dying to hear what he was going to say. So. Except for that one idiot at the beginning who got cussed out by Moxley at the very beginning.
Speaking of cussing out, there were repercussions of that promo where there was a former big name in wrestling made a comment that he should have apologized, and it was like, for what? For making himself better?
Yeah.
And there were some repercussions from that statement at GCW.
Oh, really? Oh, you'll have to fill me in on that because I kind of missed a lot of GCW news. So yeah,
okay.
It
was just something that the crowd was chanting at the beginning of the Moxley match, and
that when I heard that statement, I was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah,
but apparently he's got a history of those kind of comments, so. Whatever.
So were there any matches on Dynamite that you specifically wanted to talk about? There are two that I wanted to mention. Well, 2.5. But were there any specifically that you wanted to chat about?
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, it's the first match that I want to talk about. Before we get to that, we did have a brief MJF Wardlow backstage sort of little promo.
Yeah,
where MJF apologized to Wardlow because it was his birthday, and but then he's going to dock Wardlow's pay. And just the faces on Wardlow's during that entire promo is just like, oh man, it's gonna happen soon. There's no way it can't be happening soon. The turn.
Yeah.
It was just a nice little bit of just like, just cannot wait for that.
When he turns. Yeah.
But the first match I wanted to talk about, the Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker DMD versus Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander match.
Okay. Not one of them I was thinking of talking about. Go ahead.
Really, I thought it was a really fun match.
It was fine. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it, but it was a good match.
I don't know. I thought it was actually a really fun match. I thought it was the best match on the show, actually.
From a technical standpoint, probably. There was a match. Yeah, there was a match later in the evening that I enjoyed a little more.
Interesting. There's not a lot of matches I was super in love with on this Dynamite, but yeah, I mean, I just thought there was a lot of fun stuff in here. Like, I think Orange Cassidy plays really well with Britt, especially. I think their interactions were really good. He was giving her the weak kicks, even though he was supposed to have tagged out.
Yeah.
I thought Chris Statlander looked fantastic in this match too. Like,
oh yeah, she did. Yeah, she's great.
She did this great standing vertical suplex where like she's holding Britt up in the air, and then Orange very slowly pushes them over to complete the suplex. Yeah. I mean, I think Chris and Orange worked really well together here. Their chemistry was really fun. They got to work kind of a little bit of the comedy styles, and I liked the little at the very beginning of the match, them Britt and Adam Cole like tagging each other in just to mess with each, because they had the intergender rules of you have to tag out
right
once the member of the opposite gender tags in. And I thought it was a really fun match. Adam Statlander's up on the turnbuckle and is going to do a big 450 splash. Cole like jumps on top of Britt to cover her, and then Statlander just goes ahead and does the 450 splash and gets both of them.
Yeah, that was great.
Britt Baker took a table bump. It was a good long match with a lot of fun spots. And
I can see that. Yeah.
I don't necessarily love the idea of this feud continuing, though.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. I want to see. I mean, specifically Cole. I really want to see him do something else.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. They made an in-story reason. Orange Cassidy is the reason why Britt went through the table. So Adam Cole is furious. Wants to get his revenge. Right. And it's gonna be a street fight. So hopefully, it's happening at Beach Break, which is, I believe, named after Orange Cassidy's finishing move, the Beach Break. So in Cleveland, Ohio. But yeah, it's fine. I'm sure it'll be a fun match. And hopefully it'll be the last one, though.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you want to talk about from the show?
Well, so the next match, I don't have much to say about other than the Punk Spears match. I was not expecting that to be a squash match.
It's kind of perfect that it was, though.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that it was, but I was not expecting that, which kind of made it much better. But yeah, so that was really all I had to say about that one. It was interesting and very short.
Our past guest last week, Dave, when he was on the show, we were talking about Shawn Spears, and he brought up a really good point about Shawn Spears as the type of personality that you have on your show that's a good hand in the ring, who can lose all the time and never really be hurt by it in the eyes of the audience. So this is kind of a good utilization of Shawn. This is like the perfect utilization of Shawn Spears.
Yeah. He did his job.
Yep.
After that match, Cody came out and did a promo. What did you think of that promo?
So in my notes for this week's Dynamite, I take notes as I'm watching it.
I really should start doing that. I don't do that ever.
I write here that Cody Rhodes comes out, there's a ladder in the ring, and then I wrote, what is this promo? So I've heard a couple different takes on it. I've heard
Okay.
positive takes. I've heard negative takes. Ultimately,
Mine is more neutral, but I do have an opinion about it.
what do you think of it?
Okay, so it was a decent promo, but I think he was trying to make it a pipe bomb promo.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wanted it to be a pipe bomb
Yeah.
caliber pro bad. And I can see that's what he was trying to do, but not really. Nice try, Cody, but not quite.
Yeah, there were things about it I liked. I kind of liked him invoking Punk. Like
Yeah,
I like the idea. I mean, he specifically mentioned the pipe bomb too, so like he definitely
yeah,
was trying to do that. I think it was just too confusing. Like I feel like he was trying to lay it out in a way that like flowed really well, but there were spots in it that were just confusing to me. Like why he would jump to whatever subject he jumped to next
yeah,
was the weird part. I liked the stuff where he was saying that, I was the forbidden door before the forbidden door. I did all the things that Punk said he wanted to do before he left.
yeah,
And he's right. He did do all that stuff. And he's part of the reason why people were interested in him. He's part of the reason why, AEW was an exciting idea in the first place.
yeah. I
So
mean, without Cody, we probably would not have an AEW.
no.
We might have something similar to it, but not quite what it is. It was a good promo. It's just it wasn't pipe bomb caliber.
So the stuff that really got me was when he was just like talking about literally everyone else. When he was talking about Brody King coming in and like
Yeah,
referring to Brody Lee, like if you come into this saying like we don't change your name when you come to this company, but you gotta have you got Brody in your name, so you got big shoes to fill basically. And it's just like
yeah. I felt like that one was almost a jab at him.
yeah, and I don't think it's a fair jab either.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
when
his
Brody
name
King,
was already Brody King.
yeah, and I think I don't know when Brody King started wrestling, or when he took up that name exactly, but my guess is Brody Lee was already in WWE and wrestling under Luke Harper at that point.
I'm
So
pretty sure you're right. Yeah,
I also feel like it's a reference to Bruiser Brody too. So yeah, also
yeah.
I don't know.
I,
It's a
I
weird
did.
reference.
Sorry, I did
It,
like that he made the comment about companies changing names.
yeah,
Specifically, the jab that he made. I enjoyed that.
yeah. Yeah, at WWE changing Walter's name to Gunther.
Yeah, because that was horrible. That was a horrible idea on their part.
I don't. Vince McMahon is a senile old man and does not need to be running a company anymore.
Well, that is true. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
been Walter. Ugh, I don't know. I can't get into it. It drives me crazy.
Yeah,
And ultimately, this whole promo was
like
designed to set up a match with Sammy Guevara next week, a ladder match, for both their TNT titles. Shouting out the
yeah,
Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels double intercontinental ladder match that they had, back in the '90s. So I'm
yeah,
sure it'll be a good match.
yeah. I mean, both of them are capable in-ring performers, so I could see the match turning out well.
Yeah.
Might get overshadowed by a lot of the other stuff going on, but
Yeah. Let's see. What do I have next that I feel like?
yeah. See, the match that came out after that, I didn't care about much. I mean, it had Brody King in it, which was good, but
I like this just because purely it was basic. This is the first time they are doing their entrance as a team. The
yeah,
Kings of the Black Throne is what they're calling themselves. So I'm guessing the House of Black is going to be a much larger entity within
yeah,
AEW, and this will be the tag team combination.
yeah.
Brody King's theme song is actually sung by him. He has a hardcore band called God's Hate, and
Oh, really? I did
yeah,
not know that.
yeah, he's the vocalist in that band.
Very interesting.
And they they decimated Varsity Blondes like immediately, like
Yeah,
which you have to, you have to.
not terribly surprising. Yeah.
So I hope, for our predictions episode, I kind of wish that I'd thought about making them the tag team champions by the end of the year. So
So the other match that the one that I was referring to that I actually really enjoyed was the next match, which was Kazarian versus Archer.
yeah,
I enjoyed the match. It was not, like I had said earlier, from a technical standpoint, the other one was probably better. I just really liked seeing these two go at it.
did you know that you're probably in the minority with that? A lot of
Probably,
people.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, it's fine. You like what you like, man.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's just
I mean,
funny because a lot of
Go
people,
ahead.
the audience was audibly booing at parts during that match. So they were, I think it was too long. Yeah, I think it was just too long of a match. I like the stuff after setting up with Hangman Page
Yeah, yeah.
a lot, but I don't know. I think Lance should have beat Frankie a little quicker than that.
Probably. I think the main reason I like it is I'm a fairly recent, let's just call it fan of Archer.
Yeah.
So I just like to watch him work, get more, just get to see more of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
because there was a long period of time where he just he was not he wasn't there.
mm-hmm.
So it was like I had just started getting really interested in him, and then okay, well he's not. Now he's not anywhere.
I will say that this is a good example of what AEW should be doing with some of their talent. The idea of like cycling people in and out so that you give people enough time to miss them, or that when they come back, you're like, oh wow, we haven't seen him in a while. Oh, it's so nice to see him again. That's how I felt when I saw him come out. So
yeah, that's a good way to book. I don't know. I just enjoyed the match because mostly because I got to see Lance Archer do stuff.
Yeah, long match. I think ultimately storyline wise, it should have been a shorter match just to showcase Lance
how
is
much of
actually
a
a threat.
monster he is.
Yeah, as a threat to Hangman, because honestly, if you think about it, would Hangman have wrestled Frankie Kazarian that long as champ?
I don't know.
Probably not.
You're probably right. I mean, in retrospect, you're probably right that the match went on. But I was enjoying it. But
yeah, I mean, as long as you enjoyed it, that's great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Sky Blue versus Serena Deeb, and I'm sure you didn't care about that at all.
Didn't care. No, didn't care.
I liked it because it made Serena Deeb just look like just mean. I loved it. I loved it.
It did do that. It definitely made her look meaner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not completely sold on her character right now.
Really? I buy it
Yeah.
100%. I mean, it's been kind of.
Well, when I say sold, I'm just not interested in it yet. I don't know. It just doesn't entertain me.
Well,
I
you
don't
don't like
know.
squashes either.
I don't. But her matches with geez, the feud she had forever.
Sheeta.
Sheeta, yeah. I wasn't really interested in those either.
Oh, I mean, I
But
I'm a big Serena
I don't
Deeb
know.
fan, so I'm
Yeah, I mean, I was, but the I don't know. The feud with Serena just didn't really do much for me, and I
I'm
don't even
curious.
think that feud is over.
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm assuming maybe the idea is to write Sheeta off for a few weeks and then she'll come back and they'll have one
And bring her
last
back. Yeah,
match.
maybe.
But also, I don't know if this is the feud designed to just make Sky Blue like a, or not Sky Blue. Sky Blue didn't get to do anything in this match. Serena Deeb to really, who's she going, who is going to be her opponent
Yeah,
going forward? Like, who's the big baby? I mean, maybe Ruby Soho. I think that'd be cool. They'd have some good matches.
could.
Uh,
Yeah, that could be a good one.
but both of the women's champions are heels right now, so
Yeah.
we'll see. I guess where it goes.
I do remember like when this match started. I remember one of the first things out of my mouth was this is going to be a squash match.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I saw Blue Sky come out, I was like, oh, a squash match. Okay.
Yeah. I had a funny thought while I was watching that match, and it kind of dawned on me. I was like, huh, okay. Tony Khan signed Sky Blue specifically to kind of be like the new young and up and coming wrestler on his show. And I was like, man, he could have had Roxy like fulfill that role.
Yep.
And I think that's why maybe Roxy got away from him. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't even try because he's like, no, I got Sky Blue. But whatever. We'll see. We need to see more from her. Like actually something from her because she's only been squashed.
She has. So that match was followed by the Sting and Darby Allin versus the Acclaim.
Yep. Your favorite tag team.
Oh God. So, I mean, Sting did some pretty cool stuff. And yeah. I mean, he was in for most of the match. It was mostly just him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the very end or toward the very end when he landed that that jump into the table.
Yeah.
Did you see the look on his face? It was like, yeah, dude, you just did that. Yeah, that was pretty.
I did like all the references to like kind of like getting Sting, a new moment in DC, because they kept referencing the match with was it Hogan?
No, yeah.
It just didn't go. Well, I don't know if I don't think I've seen that match, but it's one of those. I'm sure that it was Hulk Hogan just exerting his willpower on the rest of the roster, but. I loved the Acclaim's opening like parody of Darby's entrance videos. I thought that was really good. It's a good spot for them. I mean, they like main evented Dynamite. Even though they didn't win the match, they're still like on top of the show. So I think they're another one that it's like they're probably going to get some big push within the next year. So,
Unfortunately. Yeah. So that was it for Dynamite. Friday we had Rampage, and you just watched this one today, didn't you?
yeah.
Okay.
There was enough on the show that I was like, okay, I should watch this one.
So what matches stood out the most for you in this one?
John Moxley versus Ethan Page was a good match.
Yeah, that was a good match.
I might have the same complaint about this one as I did the Frankie Kazarian and Lance Archer. Is that should it have gone on this long?
Probably. Yeah. It was a good return for Mox. But also because of the length and the amount of time that he was able to fend off Mox, I think this is a wrestler that is going to be, they're going to try to push more alongside Scorpio. Well, Scorpio Sky, they should be pushing more, but
yeah, they should have been pushing him since year one.
Yeah. And maybe they will.
I see it. I see them pushing Ethan Page as some, as a bigger deal, which, I mean, it's good for him. He has a really good showing in a match against John Moxley. His first match back, that's noteworthy.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from this, though, is just the little Bryan Danielson stare down at the end with John Moxley.
Oh, man, yeah, that was a lot of fun just to watch that. Yeah, let's see that. I want to see that.
I'm assuming it's to kind of, it was gonna be the match they were going to do for the World Eliminator tournament they were doing.
Yeah.
So we'll finally get that match, which I can't wait for.
After that was the substitute match. We were supposed to get the Young Bucks versus
Pungy Vice.
Pungy Vice, yeah. And then it turned out that Mr. Romero ended up with the COVID and couldn't do it, which was very disappointing because I was really interested in seeing that match. So we got Nick Jackson versus Trent.
On Dynamite, they had the footage from New Japan of like their rivalry in, the Young Bucks versus Roppongi Vice in New Japan and for tag team titles and all that stuff. So I was very much looking forward to the rematch for that reason alone, because I've watched those matches and
definitely.
It'll probably still happen. We got a couple weeks. Rocky can get well soon, hopefully, and we get to have that match.
Yeah, hopefully that'll come back. Let's see what was after that. Another squash match, basically. Hook and Serpentico.
These just aren't regular squash matches. These are Hook squash matches.
That is true. Yes, they're not. Yeah.
I love watching Hook. I think, God, he has that like it factor. Like he's got that like special. He's confident. He looks good in the ring. All his moves are crisp.
The crowds love him.
Yeah.
He had for a while, like he had the number one selling T-shirt on Pro Wrestling. And the guy hasn't even been wrestling like a year,
Supposedly everything about him is his choice too. Like his theme music is his choice, his like look and ring gear and like that's all him. Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess if you grow up, the son of Taz, you're gonna know a thing or two about wrestling. So,
for sure, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing
it was squash, but it was still an entertaining squash match.
Yeah,
just because it's entertaining to watch him do his thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, the main event
Yeah.
for the evening was Jade Cargill versus Anna Jay.
Yeah, you specifically told me to watch this match.
Yeah. So we haven't crapped on her, but for lack of a better term, I've been crapping on her because she's just green, and as much as I like her character and her look, she just not the greatest wrestler. But in this match, it looks like she's been practicing.
Yeah,
She's getting better.
I was going to say this is probably her best match.
I think so as well. Like I was going in thinking, oh, great, another botch fest, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, she's actually putting on some moves and not looking like she's only done this for a week. No, she looked good. She looked good. I was proud of her.
It really made me think that a couple things happened. So one, I think the match with Ruby Soho, she was nervous. She knew the outcome. She knew this is her big moment.
Yeah.
It was all eyes on her. Maybe some of
Yeah.
those botches happened because she was as nervous as she was.
Yeah.
Maybe
Her kid was in the audience.
Mm-hmm. And maybe this one she was a little more comfortable. This is a Rampage match. This is Anna Jay, who's someone I believe she has trained with at the Nightmare Factory. It's like she's, they're classmates, I think.
That would not surprise me.
So,
they actually looked like they worked well together.
They did. They worked really well together. They both actually. I think this is Anna Jay's best match too. I mean, well, there's the hardcore match too. I guess that people really love that match. But I also think that after that, where she won the title, she didn't really wrestle a match for a couple weeks. So I think she might have just spent that entire time just working on her work. Yeah,
her leg work.
She wanted to look good. So
and she did. I thought it was a good match.
I'm sure she heard the criticism. She doesn't live in a vacuum.
Oh, she had to. But yeah, I mean, she did a good job. I thought it was a good match.
Yeah,
good for her.
I think she's just gonna get better. Keep getting better.
Yep.
Yeah, good match.
Good. And that was all for AEW.
Yep.
So what is next on the list? What you said you watched some MLW? Was that Saturday?
No, this was a couple weeks old episode.
Oh, okay.
So MLW, they have taken in the Lucha Underground, and it's basically become the spiritual sequel to that show. I mean, it's basically like a sequel to that show. It just without the same names. And so I wanted to specifically pull up the very first show is MLW Azteca, and it's a cross promotion show between MLW and The Crash, which The Crash is a Tijuana based lucha libre company. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of AAA faces that you probably would recognize. So the very first episode, it featured 3 matches. The first match is probably the best. It was Arami, Black Destiny, and Mysterious, I can't say his name, Junior, versus Arez, Dinamico, and Scalibur. Apologies for those pronunciations. That was the first match. I think it was the best match on the whole show. It was one of those matches that at the end, the audience threw money into the crowd, which is like a lucha libre tradition. If the match is really good, money gets thrown from the audience. It was an excellent match. I loved it. I really love Arez, who I'm sure you watched on that GCW show. The show also featured Psycho Clown versus Richard Holiday, probably the weakest match of the three. And the main event was an Apocalypto hardcore tag match between Alexander Hammerstone and Pagano against Black Taurus and King Muertes, who I believe when he was in Lucha Underground was Mil Muertes.
Okay.
He was kind of like, no, King Cuerno. I think that was his name there. Either way. He's kind of like the big bad luchador villain. And it was a hardcore match, so like I didn't love it, but it was fine. If you're curious about the show, I just like the presentation overall, and I love Lucha Libre, and it was cool to see this kind of collaboration. But I'll catch up on the rest of them too going forward because I think it's a fun idea.
Cool.
Now tell me about this GCW.
All right, so GCW, it was a pay-per-view called The Wrld, and they kind of spelled it weird, so I don't know what was up with that. But it was from the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, so the venue was kind of weird.
That's the ECW arena.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
One of them.
Right. So, starting off, just kind of pointing out, I had not watched any. I've not watched any GCW events ever, but I saw the card, and there were some matches where I'm like, man, I really kind of want to see that. One of the matches on the card actually didn't happen due to probably COVID. I really don't know what happened. So there was a substitute, which actually it ended up turning out to be a pretty decent match anyway. But so it was the first time I watched a GCW event. I get the impression you were kind of surprised when I told you I was watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little outside your usual viewing.
Is it because of the hardcore style?
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't watch GCW, but I know there was a lot more to this show than that.
Yeah, and see that was my original impression of it. It was just a hardcore type thing, but there definitely was a lot more to it, and I think GCW is probably something I'm going to follow going forward. It was fun enough to, watching the show overall. I'm going to talk about a couple of the matches or a few of them, but overall, it was a fun show to watch. The matches I want to talk about specifically, I'll go through the card, but I'm not going to talk about them. The first match was a grab ring ladder match. So there was a ton of people that I was not familiar with, which was the case in a lot of these matches, actually. Now, PCO was in this one. But the winner of this match ended up being the latecomer to the match. Like they announced all of them, and then this person was a last minute entry, and he ended up winning, and that was AJ Gray. It's kind of interesting to watch. I may have to keep my eye on him. Again, never really heard of him before this. After that, there was a trios match with Bandito, Laredo Kid, and I don't remember the other guy's name. But let me look it up here. I have some notes here. ASF versus Flamita, Gringo Loco, and Ariz.
Yeah, that's the Rez guy I was talking about on the.
Yeah, and he and those guys defeated Laredo Kid and Bandito. I don't think this was a tag match or anything. This is not one of them I want to talk about. It wasn't. Now, the next match was supposed to be Blake Christian versus Jonathan Gresham. And this was one of them I was like, I want to see this because I like Jonathan Gresham. Kind of a newcomer to my fandom list. I really like Jonathan Gresham and seeing his matches. So this was one of them I was looking forward to. Unfortunately, Jonathan Gresham did not appear. And I don't know why. I'll have to look more into that. But so Blake Christian, who I don't know who he is, he came out and he basically, like, anybody that wants to, no, he actually named who he wanted his opponent to be. And it ended up being Leo Rush. And it turned out to be a pretty good match. Probably would have been a better match had it been Jonathan Gresham, because that's who I was looking forward to. But yeah, Rush and this guy Christian put on a good show. And,
Blake Christian, I think he was an NXT guy who got let go before he got to really do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he looks kind of familiar, and he said that he's wrestled in his pre-match promo. He was talking about how he had fought Leo Rush a number of times, but he ended up beating Leo Rush. But yeah, it was a good match. They put on a good match. The next match for me was match of the night, and not necessarily like from a technical standpoint, but everything that was going on in the match, and the match itself, was entertaining. And it was there was a lot of lead up to this match on I'd say social media, but that I don't even remember where I saw the lead up. I just remember seeing a lot of lead up to this match. And I'm referring to Joey Janela versus Matt Cardona. So Matt Cardona came out playing the heel. He was awesome. He spit on some guy, and he was an ass. But they did have a really good match. I'm not putting anything, not trying to play down the match at all, because it was a good match, and there was a lot of really good spots and a lot of cool stuff going on inside the ring. But there was a lot of, I'll refer to them as cameos. Like, a lot of people got involved in this match, and it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Smart Mark actually showed up. And he came out talking about how there's this rule that you can't use your championship belt against Cardona per the contract. He was just talking crap. So Smart Mark came out, but that wasn't the most interesting one. Coming out from under the ring at some point in the match, we see Hornswoggle. It was hilarious. I love Hornswoggle. So we see Hornswoggle, and then just like almost immediately after that, we see Marco Stunt. And then right after that, a guy who you may not know who he is, but I know who he is because he's actually an Oklahoma-based wrestler, and I've seen him at local events with local promotions. His name is Sam Stackhouse. You know that name?
No,
but
I saw the name here, but
yeah, he came out, and I'm like, is that who I think that is? And and they announced his name, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, no, that can't be the same guy. So I looked him up on the internet. I'm like, that's him. Wow, that's awesome. So you got that, and then another a couple more cameos. The next one that comes out is this guy. He's all dressed in black. He's got a black motorcycle helmet on, and he spears Joey Janela, and he comes up and he kind of gets alongside Cardona, and then reveals that it's Brian Myers. And so it's like, yeah, cool. And then possibly maybe the quite possibly the biggest name that showed up in this match was X-Pac. So that was fun. So all overall this match, it was just a lot of fun to watch. Just all this, it was all kinds of shenanigans going on in this match. It was crazy. But the match itself actually was good. It was pretty brutal, obviously. And then Cardona ends up beating Janela. Next match after that was Ruby Soho versus Ali Ketch. I've never heard of Ali Ketch, but this might be somebody to keep my eye on. She was actually kind of entertaining to watch. You ever heard of her?
Yeah, I've heard quite a bit about her. I've never watched any of her matches myself, but yeah, I've heard a lot about her.
Yeah, she was entertaining to watch. Next match was Effie, who I never heard of, but apparently he's a big GCW.
Yeah, I've seen Effie a couple times at Fest Wrestling. Effie's great. I like Effie a lot.
So he was wrestling Jeff Jarrett. So
yeah,
that was a little weird. I'm like, what's this dude doing? But yeah, he came out and he was pretty brutal. He actually, like, Jarrett went around the outside the ring and started beating people up that were outside the ring, and yeah, he was pretty brutal, and he ended up winning. It wasn't a great match, but it was just kind of entertaining, all the shenanigans that were going on. The next one, I'm not really sure why it wasn't the main event, but other than the Janela Cardona fight, this was probably my second favorite match, and that was the World Championship match between Jon Moxley and Homicide. Great match. Both of these guys, really good workers. They've got a hell of a chemistry together. They're amazing. I think at one point Homicide may have lost a tooth. But it was a great match. Not surprising, these two guys putting them together, doing their thing. I love watching both of these guys wrestle. So seeing them together was a lot of fun. And this was another one that I was really looking forward to. And Moxley retained. He beat Homicide. Gave him a paradigm shift, and yeah, it was all over. The main event, actually, though, was a tag team match, a championship match, where the Briscoes came out and did an open challenge. And their opponents ended up being Matt Tremont, who I don't know the name. Don't know who he is. He came out, got a pretty decent pop, and I'm like, I don't know, no idea who this guy is. So he came out, and then everybody was like talking about, speculating, who's his partner going to be? He can't take him on by himself. And then out comes Nick Cage, and this was a really short and kind of a surprising ending match. The Briscoe brothers lost. So the new tag champions of GCW are Gage and Tremont. And what this tells me is that the Briscoes have a pretty good idea where they're going.
Yeah, I was going to say this. So there's a couple reasons why I heard things about the show where people were kind of upset about the last match not being FTR as the open, the opponents.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, but no.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that people would expect. Logically, though, I get the decision. So Matt Tremont is like a GCW homegrown guy, and Nick Gage basically like made that company what it is.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression from the promotion or from the promo that he cut after the match was over.
So
Um,
he also hadn't wrestled for the company since October, and people had been speculating, "Where's Gage? Where's Gage? Why has he not been on any of these shows? He's missing. He's missing."
yeah.
I think he was rehabbing an injury, and then
Well,
this.
I mean, he definitely got a pop when he came out.
Yeah.
Those GCW fans loved seeing him.
So one of the big criticisms I saw of the show was that so many of not GCW people won their matches. Like the people who were like, "Why is Ruby Soho winning and not Alley Catch? Alley Catch is here all the time. Why is Cardona winning when we think he's probably going to be leaving within a certain amount of time?" The Hammerstone was like meant to be kind of this like goal for the company, and it has. I think a lot of people were like, "No, you need to pay this off with the GCW faithful, the people who've been here and helped make this company what it is." So, I don't watch GCW, so I don't really have a stake in any of this. So
Yeah.
I was just giving a little context there, but
yeah, I mean, from that perspective, the criticisms are understandable. But my perspective, having never watched it, I think it wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be. Because I mean, the match or the event like made me want to start watching it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a win for them. I certainly can't be the only person that watched it for the first time and said, "Hey, I like this."
Yeah, that's true. I'd be curious if you would like the other shows though, because I think so. They do a lot of death matches typically, but I think the city of New York doesn't allow for death matches. So I'm wondering how different those shows would be in another state. But
well, just the fact that some of the performers I was interested in, I mean, I may not. I don't really watch a lot of hardcore matches, but if they're interesting enough and have character work that I like, could make it more interesting. Yeah. But yeah, overall, for my first GCW event, I liked it. It was a lot of fun to watch this pay-per-view, and I'll probably watch another one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, that brings us to this week's top 5.
Yeah.
We are talking top 5 future stars.
Yeah, these are people that we kind of, I guess, hope or, see a lot of potential in. Yeah, I don't know the exact, like, what our end goal is. People we think should be future stars, maybe. That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
I'll go first since you just did the whole GCW rundown, so.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
I'm gonna go with my number. I'll do number 5. I will select Darius Lockhart. He's from Greensboro, North Carolina. I've seen him wrestle a bunch of times at PWX in Charlotte. I've seen him at Fest Wrestling. Like, he's just probably one of my favorite independent wrestlers currently. He had a brief little match on Dark. And then I think his highest profile thing has actually been an NWA where he cut like a pretty good promo. So I think he's someone who is going to, I think once a bigger company kind of like sees in him all of that potential and charisma and personality that he has, and he's a great worker too. And they decide to like invest in him, he's going to be paying off as like a big deal in the future.
Yeah.
So.
I think I remember seeing him on an episode of Dark.
I can't remember who he wrestled. Maybe Ricky Starks? That sounds right.
I don't remember. So I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Mine is very AEW heavy. because that's what I watch.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Red Velvet.
Yeah.
I like to watch her work. I mean, every match I've seen her in, I've enjoyed watching what she does. They've got her in kind of a storyline right now. They're working it with Chris Statland and Layla Hirsch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the staying power of this storyline, but it is getting her TV time, so
Yeah.
That's a positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to see more of her.
Well, on a similar note, my number 4 pick is Layla Hirsch.
Okay. Yeah.
She has a really cool, unique look. Like, she's very different from a lot of the other women on the AEW roster. She's built very differently. She has like a athletic, technical, mat-based style, which is very
She's
unique.
got an almost Ronda Rousey look to her.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I wonder if there is some like UFC type training with her.
Yeah.
I think she's such a different type of women's wrestler in that company and the company sees it in her too, I think, and that's why they're giving her this kind of higher profile story right now. So
yeah,
I think she's someone that if they hang on to her, she's going to be a pretty big deal, I think.
So she was born in Russia.
Yeah.
I don't see any UFC background in her career. Her pro wrestling debut was in Combat Zone Wrestling.
Okay, yeah. That's similar to that's where Moxley made his name.
Yeah. And then she actually made the PWI in 2021. She was ranked number 61 of the top 100 female single wrestlers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. She's good. I like her.
Yeah. She didn't make my list, but she probably would have had I thought of her. My number 4 actually is Anna Jay.
Yeah.
And I base that off of the last few matches that I've seen her in. Number 1, the match she just had with Jade. I thought she did really well with that one. That, call it what it is, that hardcore match that she had, a tag match she had a couple weeks ago. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, she's got a good move set around her, and I'd like to see her do something more with that company.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. They put her with John Silver these last couple weeks. I guess that's partly because, when she does her promos, she still kind of has that stiff sort of, not 100% natural sounding, but she's actually getting really good too. Yeah.
Yeah. Her pairing, not pairing, because it's a lot more than a pair. Her inclusion into the Dark Order has made her character work better too.
Yeah. My number, I guess, is number 3.
3, yeah.
Is Trish Adora. She has wrestled for Ring of Honor. She was one of those newer signings that Ring of Honor did when they were trying to rebuild the women's division over there. And I believe I've seen her wrestle live, and she is so good. She's really great wrestler. She's just got like this great look. Ring of Honor definitely saw something in her, and we're going to do something with her. And I hope she can find somewhere soon to show up in. I know she's part of that. I think it's like Fight Club Wrestling or something like that. It's like a DC based wrestling promotion. But yeah, Trish Adora.
Yeah, I kind of see that. Yeah. My number 3 is Ren Narita.
My number 2 is Ren Narita.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of work by him, but the match that he had with Shibata at Wrestle Kingdom was really good,
Yeah.
and he is the type of wrestler from New Japan that I can see, if he hasn't already, because he might have. If he hasn't already, he needs to do a learning tour in the States. And I want to see him make the rounds.
He's in the LA dojo currently.
Okay. So he probably, yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably.
I think he's done some other shows in the States. I think he's a States-based wrestler. They send the Young Lions when they're on excursion to, like, they send some to Mexico, some to Europe, some to the US. Yeah, he's one of the US guys.
Okay, no, go ahead.
There's a couple guys on excursion currently who I think that it's kind of close to time for them to come back. So
Okay.
I'm hoping Ren Narita comes back soon. I think they're gonna slot him in that Shibata, not strong. I guess strong style, Kings Road style, wrestler. Like, I think he's just gonna be like one of the. He'll probably have a never title reign. Look at one of those guys. But
so he did make an appearance on Elevation.
Okay, yeah.
Back in May. And I just am reading this. He actually was number 428 of the PWI 500 last year.
He's one of the guys. I remember watching it when he was still in Japan as a young lion. And he was one of those guys that was just like, man, this guy's really good already.
Yeah.
So, like, I think he's going to get really, really good. It's funny. They'll send wrestlers to Europe to wrestle. And here in we'll not see them. That's where Great Okan was sent. He did all his training in Europe. And so, like, he was not known at all, really. But Master Wato was sent to Mexico. And, like, people knew when he was wrestling. So, it's interesting setup they have.
So Red Narita, he was my 3 and your 2.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my 2. We mentioned him earlier. Hook.
He's my number 1.
Oh wow. Okay. Hook has got a good look to him and a good move set.
Yeah, Hook already.
Since he's your number 1, why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this one?
So Hook is already, like, I'd call him a star almost at this point. I think we need to see him in more competitive style matches and not squash matches. But as of right now, this is a great role for him. He just gets to look like a killer in the ring.
Yeah.
And I'm very looking forward to seeing what a longer Hook match is going to be like.
Yeah.
But I have high hopes for this guy. I think he's going to be a big deal for them, for sure.
Yeah. I would like to see him. I'd like to see what he's going to end up doing against a more seasoned opponent.
Yeah.
So he was not my number 1, but my number 1 was a very young competitor, much like Hook. And I am referring to Dante Martin.
Oh, yeah.
He is, as far as like the rookie type guys in professional wrestling, he is probably my top 3, if not my top number 1. He's just, I love to watch what he does. I'm really glad that he's getting he had that string of TV time. He's had some, top name matches. I really like seeing where they're taking him, and just watching him work. I mean, he's amazing. Still watching the stuff that he can do. Just I can't imagine like what's going to happen with that tag team when his brother shows up.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a heck of a tag team to watch. But Dante's got a little bit more name recognition at this point because he's been around while his brother hasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd really like to see more of him and see where they're going to take him.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Leo Rush thing did not seem to work out with AEW, and I look forward to hearing Leo's side of the story because I'm very interested to see what he has to say. But unfortunately, it kind of leaves Darius like kind of floating again because
true. He could pair up with Matt again.
He could, but I think they're putting him with people who can talk, and Seidel, he's not a bad talker, but he's not an exciting talker either.
Right.
He's just kind of he's good enough because he's a former WWE guy, and he was had to talk in that company, and so like he knows how to talk, but he's just he's not a personality that I think jumps off for people. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping his brother comes back soon, and I don't know how much longer he has an injury, I believe. So
yeah, his brother has an injury. Oh man, I can't remember his brother's name.
Darius.
All right.
Yeah.
So that'll be what's the name of the tag team? Top Flight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal when they got signed too. So the company has seen a lot in them from the beginning.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing more of Mr. Martin.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
that was our top 5 future stars, and that does it for another episode of Around the Ring. Be sure to catch us next week, where I have no idea what we're going to talk about other than AEW, because I don't know what's going on next week.
Yeah, I mean, now with no New Japan shows, I really have no idea what's going on.
Well, you've got the MLW thing that
I might watch some more of that. Yeah.
But cool. All right. Well, we'll see you again next week, and have your questions ready, and we will answer them next week.